This is South Kensington. The next station is Sloane Square. This is a District Line train to Upminster.
Great to have you on the show. He joins us now. What do you say to people, Peter, who said, actually, we've got a great deal to lose if we fail to take these conformist measures? Because the modelling, and I know you question some of the modelling, but the modelling shows that you could potentially have 500,000 dead. No, he joins us now. What do you say to people, Peter, who said, actually, we've got a great deal to lose if we fail to take these conformist measures? Because the modelling, and I know you question some of the modelling, but the modelling shows that you could potentially have 500,000 deaths. So surely it's worth the risk.
Modelling is speculation and frankly guesswork. And it comes, I believe, from the same sources that came up with the extraordinary suggestion which led, you may remember, the great foot and mouth in France 19 years ago, which I was much involved in covering. I remember walking around the country lanes of Devon, watching farmers weeping as they had to massacre and put onto huge pyres huge numbers of healthy cattle. And it wasn't, I don't believe, a success, and I think many of the people who were involved in it now look back on it as having been, at the very least, no reaction. I think one has to understand that there are differences among experts on this matter. For instance, there is, which I posted on Twitter, a very interesting and actually quite fascinating interview with a professor in Germany who's very skilled in these matters, who says these measures are likely to be disastrous, particularly just for the old, who are going to be deprived of all the things which make life worth living. And then, of course, there's the economic aspect of this. After the crashing of our economy, which is what the government has definitely achieved, and the attack on civil liberties, which I believe it's engaged in cramming through Parliament at the moment, these things are actually happening. And after the crashing of the economy, how are we going to be able to afford the level of health services and medical services that we have now? And will we be as healthy a country as we are now once we're so much poorer as we are going to be thanks to this deliberate policy? You'll have to explain to me how crashing the economy and restricting civil liberties is going to prevent the spread of the disease, because I can't see any logical connection between the two actions. You talk about the distances we're supposed to keep from each other and all this. I'm perfectly happy to abide by these rules if people think they're useful. I've talked to experts about these, and there's no doubt that the virus can spread quite easily, and one should try as hard as one can to prevent it. Since this all began, I've been very careful about frequent hand washing, and I've always believed in that sort of thing anyway, and I've redoubled it, and I respect people's fear of catching it, so I keep my distance. That all makes perfect sense, and I don't see any reason why not. But closing down the entire economy is not necessary, and you could easily rely on the civility and good sense of people to keep the necessary distance while continuing to run a functioning economy. And the other simple point is this: are we taking proportionate action? This virus is presented as if it was some immense scourge, killing untold and unheard of numbers of people. And it simply is not the case by comparison with previous things. Many people have been dying in recent years, and indeed the health service has struggled hugely to cope with the problem of influenza. So, for instance, I got these figures from the government last week because I felt it should be spared. They said that the number of flu cases and deaths due to flu-related complications in England alone, this doesn't include Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, averages 17,000 a year. And this varies greatly each winter, ranging from 1,692 deaths last season, that's 2018-19, to 28,330 deaths from influenza complications in 2014-15. And people need to understand, it's very sad, and no one is more anxious than I to prevent unnecessary and preventable deaths, but each day in this country, 1,600 people do die. And so the figures which are being put forward by some of my media colleagues as if they were some sort of hecatomb of death are not actually as shocking as they're portrayed to be. And people use these terms like jumped and doubled and enormous. And I don't think this is actually true. People are exaggerating the severity of it. And then there is another very simple point here. I make it first of all, we all talk a lot about prostate cancer, especially men. An awful lot of men die with prostate cancer, but they don't die of it. It's not the cause of death. And what's happening is that people are dying, and again, I've checked this with the government, there haven't been autopsies and inquests into the people who are classified as having died with COVID-19. All that's happened is they've tested positive for COVID-19 and they've died. But in many cases, the real cause is an underlying, or the fact that they've reached a great age and have underlying problems. And the interesting thing will be to see if we calmly examine this, has the actual death rate risen? Or have we simply reclassified certain deaths
But the problem is
or another?
But the problem is we don't
urge of
know.
calmness in the face of figures that's not being shared by the government or by much of the media.
Well, no, I totally understand what you're saying.
Let's sum up. This year we explored the failure of democracy, while the social scientists brought our world to the brink of chaos. But do you understand it? Do you believe it?
I don't know.